critically analyzing global affairs. The Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.
Both Priti Patel and David Davis came to me in the last 2 years and told me I was completely right about the vaccine safety and efficacy, but neither of them wanted to speak out. Indeed, when I spoke out first of all and stopped the government from vaccinating the under fives in the UK, I wanted allies. I knew I wanted allies. I went to David Davis as a fellow Brexiteer, and he told me I was right. And he told me he was vaccine harmed and had suffered 2 micro heart attacks after his second Pfizer over 2 years ago. But he refused to speak out. And Priti Patel came to me. Yes.
Andrew, we've got 650 people in that place.
Lots of those MPs are vaccine harmed. Either they told me, or their relatives told me, their wives told me, or they've lost relatives, or a lot of them were vaccine harmed. And when an MP comes to me and says that my sister's now paralysed from the neck down, she's taken the Moderna booster, and I said, well, you've got to speak out, And they said, oh, we don't want any publicity. She works for the NHS. She was coerced into taking it. And you know how vindictive the NHS are, and they still wouldn't speak out.
It is an extraordinary suggestion, and I think it's worth that we do absolutely amplify this. But you're saying that several people in the House are vaccine harmed. Is that right?
Yeah, lots of them. Yes.
And just to be clear, why are they not speaking out?
Well, you'd have to ask them that. They're either scared. They've either been offered the same bribes I was that I refused, or they've come under the same.
What the bribe? Tell me what the bribes were. What were the bribes?
2 years ago, last January, I was offered anything I wanted in the world, Andrew. And I said, what, shut up. And I said, what do you mean? I was playing them a bit. They said, well, you have to tell us what you want and we get it for you. And I said, well, anything I want in the world. And he said, well, pretty much. You get what you want. And I said, well, can I, in that case, then, can I have if that's the game we're playing, can I have the Prime Minister's resignation letter? And I couldn't have that. So I told him I didn't want anything else.
Well, you had to wait. You had to wait a little bit for that. But let's go for it, James.
Yeah, can I just butt in there? Quite often with the for example, the climate debate and things like that, when people get to the end of their careers, Judith Curry is one of them. There's lots of other scientists, and they're no longer dependent on the money, funding and everything else. They really start to speak their mind then. Given that we've had so many MPs, Andrew, and I'm talking to Bridgen here, leave Parliament that are no longer, they might have links with the Conservative Party and stuff, but they're no longer under such big scrutiny. Wouldn't it be good to try and find some people now that would speak out and tell the truth about what happened? Do you think that's possible?
No, I don't think it is, because, the punishment that was dealt out to me, when I was thrown out of the Conservative Party, I had 4 members of staff, 2 full-time men and 2 part-time ladies. And I said to the staff, because they're all members of the Conservative Party, I'm out. If you want to stay with the Conservative Party, you can't carry on working for me, but I hope you will. You'll leave the Conservative Party. And the 2 full-time men both said they were staying with the Conservative Party. And I had them, one of them had worked for me for 17 years. And I said, look, everything that I've said in the Chamber of the House of Commons is 100% true. You've seen all the evidence. It's true. And they said, yes, they did. But they said they'd also seen what the party had done to me reputationally and financially, and they didn't want it doing to them. So my retort to them was, I said, what you mean is you don't mind me going over the top and taking the flak to protect your wives and children, but you're not man enough to do it yourself. We never spoke after that. I've never spoken to them since, but they left. That's the pressure they've put on my colleagues in the House of Commons.
I find can I also just clarify one point, because it's so important, Andrew, and people will be shocked to hear this, although we hear about whips and what they do behind the scenes and so on and so forth. Can you give us examples of who amongst your colleagues, you've mentioned names if it's not defamatory, and if it's true, that's the best defence to defamation anyway. Who amongst your colleagues has basically accepted these bribes, and what do these sort of bribes? I don't know. I don't know who's taken any bribes. I know that I was offered a bribe. I don't know what else you could interpret. You can tell us what you want. What is that? That's nothing more than a bribe. But you must have spoken to some of your colleagues. You must have spoken to some of your colleagues about it, who said, "Oh, I got this," and so on and so forth, tickets to something or whatever.
And I think you're talking rather more than tickets to something, Andrew. I think we're talking a lot more than that. I don't, but I mean, also I know they always use the carrot on you, and then they use the stick. Or show you the stick first, then offer you the carrot, then give you the stick if you don't take the carrot. I mean, that's the way it works. And also, the example they made of me and the smearing in the newspapers and all the attacks on me and cancelling me, I mean, that half of that was to teach the other MPs a lesson. And what's happened in the first week of this new Labour government, exactly what I predicted. And I think it was an interview with you, James, and I said, Starmer's got this massive majority. He's an authoritarian Marxist. The first time any of his MPs vote against the whip, he's going to suspend them. And he can do that to 100 MPs, and it still doesn't affect his majority. And he suspended 7 of his own MPs, long-standing MPs, on the first vote, and he sent a message to all the rest of his MPs, you either vote with the government, whatever I say, or you're out of the Labour Party. That we are now in a dictatorship. MPs should be able to stand up in the House of Commons without being bribed, without being threatened, and speak on their conscience to protect the interests of their constituents, speak without fear or favour. And I've said many times, there's a lot of fear and a lot of favour in the House of Commons, and it shouldn't be there.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, the reason I mentioned just tickets is to try and eke out of you some sort of examples of what sort of level of bribe we're talking about. Can you give any examples?
I couldn't have the Prime Minister's resignation letter, although they said I could have anything I wanted. I couldn't have that. I didn't want anything else, if that's the game we're playing. But I did get it eventually, didn't I?
Oh, well, you did eventually. But any examples other than tickets? If I pressed you on something, what's the most outrageous one?
I'm very sceptical that the House of Lords is something that is a stipend for life at £350 a day, tax-free income, and I think you need to look at the people who suddenly end up in the House of Lords on all sides of the House. For me, I found the House of Lords has been absolutely useless in helping the people, protect the people from the tyrannies that have been inflicted upon them the last 4 years. I would get rid of the House of Lords. It is a place where people are rewarded for betraying their own people, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So just to be clear on that, then what you're saying is that people were bribed with a seat in the House of Lords.
I think if that's what they wanted, I think you could have whatever you wanted. You could have.
It's been going on for years.
You could probably get a place on a top flango that pays a lot more money than MPs get paid. You could probably have all sorts of things if you're willing to play the game. It is a big club, and I don't want to be in it, quite honestly.
Right. No, but well done, you. We will get you back to dig deeper into that and to shine a light. I mean, I think the electorate deserve to know that people are not speaking without favour, effectively, and if they are being bribed to shut up, it's a bit of a concern.
or fear. There's fear and favour.
Yes, and the fear. Give us the examples of the fear. You get pushed out.
Well, give us some practical examples. Both parties use it. All the parties use it. If you don't go with the party narrative, which may be completely against the interests of your constituents, to get on in politics, you've got to be loyal to your party, not to the people who elected you. And that's not right, is it? That's not what I came into politics for. I mean, when the BBC, the last interview they did with me, they asked me, why are you willing to sacrifice your political career on the hill of vaccine harms? And I said, well, that's because that's the hill they're killing my people on.
And I say, I did promise that we were going to go through some of your greatest achievements.
We haven't got time for all of that.
I know. We will get you back. I'll make sure I do ply you with appropriate rewards, which will be very public and openly disclosed. But for now, Andrew Bridgen, it's been an absolute delight having you on the show. Thank you so much for shedding a light on this. James, it's an absolute pleasure, as always. I'll be seeing James again on Wednesday and Friday this week. Tomorrow, I'm going to be joined by Basil Valentine and also Harvey Goldsmith, the legendary producer, to talk about the state of the entertainment industry, how COVID, the lessons from COVID there, and also what the future is going to hold for that industry. But for now, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much to the gallery, as always, and I'll see you tomorrow.
To hear a replay of this hour, go to episodes at tntradio.live.